Oh, cool. Just going to do this for a half hour and then we'll be done. All right. Are we good in the back? All right. Okay, so yeah, Reggie said I was a little anxious. Little is a stretch. Yeah, I've been working on this, well, it's been working on me, I guess, for about 2.5, 3 months, something like that. And I thought I had it all figured out. I really did. And then, I don't know, things just kind of changed last minute. This is the first time I ever had one like all ready to go, in the can and ready to go. But it just kind of changed a little bit last minute. And that, I don't deal with change well. So, yeah, so just kind of been dealing with that. Right. So are Joe and Sylvie, are they on? It doesn't really matter. The last time I was up here, Joe Cardasano was doing the MC. Maverick, how you doing? Yeah, he was MCing, and Sylvie keeps going, you guys think it's comedy hour. That's all you do is joke around. So, today, can I have one? Just one. Yeah. Okay. What does a cow with no lips say? Ooh! I've been waiting on that for a month. I heard that, and I'm like, oh, I got to give a message. But just to put this out there, so it's really not that funny, but then you spend a couple weeks thinking about a cow with no lips going, ooh. It gets really weird. So as I started working on this, it seems like everybody I talked to, every place I went, every conversation I had, well, not everyone, but a lot, somebody would say something that I already had written down. It was amazing. Coffee with Jesus, just talking with random people on Facebook, Nate. So I want to get some housekeeping things out of the way. We're going to talk about plagiarism real quick. Full disclosure, I thought of this stuff already. It was in here, and then it started rooting around up here, and then I get confirmation from you guys. So I just want to, before we go, I just want to give some credit to Nate and Reggie and Melinda and Jason, Vicky, Mike, Dwayne, Bill, Mary, Dan, and the Lord, of course, right? So if it's really bad, it's your fault. And if it's good, I'll see you in court. Okay, comedy hour's over. On to the word. We're going to start in Matthew 25, 31 through 46. So I got a lot of reading to do, so bear with me. And I'm NIV, so. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirst? When did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger, invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me.' They will also answer, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or needing clothes, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you?' And he will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me.' Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteousness to eternal life." So based upon how we treat people, how we treat others, we will be judged on that. Eternal punishment or eternal life is what awaits us based on how we treat others. And also for our actions. Matthew 12:33. Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good, or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad, for a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil things stored up in him. But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned. So I think it's safe to say that we'll be judged by word and deed. Our words and our deeds. How we treat people, what we say, what we do, decisions we make, we will be judged. Are our words empty? And do our deeds produce good fruit? Just to reiterate, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil out of the evil stored up in him. Your words and your deeds are a reflection of your heart. If your words and deeds are evil outright, it will be obvious. But scarier than that are deeds that seem good but are not. Words that are empty. If good deeds are done out of pride and self-promotion, eventually they will produce bad fruit. And if your words are empty, God knows. Is our heart filled with the Lord or the world? People say and do all the right things publicly, some people, but do not really have a relationship with the Lord. Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?" Then I will tell them plainly, "I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers." People do and say many things in the name of the Lord, but Jesus knows their heart, and there is a price to pay for being fake. Little side note on our words. Matthew 15:11 says, "What comes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them." And Jesus was talking about washing your hands before you eat. But I just found it ironic that I read this verse on a day that we were sitting in here with coffee and Jesus, and Vicky was talking about her granddaughter and how she has problems with her vocal cord. But she was talking about the connection between the vocal cord and your swallow, right? So God made this connection of what goes into your body, but also what comes out in words. So there's just something there, and I just thought I'd touch on that real quick. Okay. Changing things up here. I think it was the last time I was up here, I was talking about, if you remember, and if you're new here, I'm so happy for you. I was talking about my obsession, like lately, since I've been saved, with like water. And we read about the water coming out of the temple and how it's really flowing out of your heart, and the temple's your heart and all that. So I thought I was over it, but I'm not. So today we're going to talk about ripples. Bear with me. I'll get you where we need to go. John, we're going to Colebrook. Yeah. We're going through Bethel. We'll get back here eventually. Back in November, I was listening to a podcast about the Millinocket Marathon, and the guy that organized it, named Gary Allen, was just talking about how this whole race came into being. And he was just talking about how the town of Millinocket, kind of like Berlin, was a mill town, paper town, and the mills shut down, and the town was dying. And he just wanted to do something to help, and he didn't know what he could do, but he was a runner. So he just, and a really good runner, by the way. I read some of his stats. I won't bore you, but really good. But he just said, I want to do something to help the town of Millinocket. So I don't know anything else, so I'll create a marathon. We'll do a marathon up there, and we'll see if we can just raise some money and see what happens. And he made a phone call, and that led to another phone call. And then you get some more people involved. It was just this whole ripple effect of things that stemmed from this idea that came from his head, and it must have came from a good place. Because as a result of that, this turned into this massive event. This first year was 50 runners, and this past year was 3,000 runners. And they raised millions of dollars for just not Millinocket, but the surrounding townships. Yeah. So it produced good fruit. And when I listened to the podcast, he just kept saying, I want to make good ripples. When I go out in life, I just want to make good ripples. And I was like, I want to make good ripples. I want to be a good guy. I want to do good things. I want to work for the Lord and all that stuff. So I was like, I think that's a good, just a good name for doing good things, So, but then I had to figure out, well, what's a ripple? And I think, based on what we've already read, for me anyways, and if you'll just humor me with it for today, a ripple would be considered your word and deeds. Your words and deeds. A good ripple is a word or deed that we put out into the world, but it emanates from God's place in our heart. Speaking of words and deeds, I think we can all agree, right, that words and deeds have effect. Can you think of something that somebody said to you maybe years ago that's still sticking with you? Something that somebody did that's still sticking with you? Or maybe you said something or you did something? And they're not all bad, right? We put good ripples out, and sometimes we put bad ripples out. So it seems like when you say, can you remember something that somebody said or did, you automatically go to that bad thing, right? I just did it. But we're trying to get to a place where we're putting out good ripples. There's examples in the Bible, and that's where I started this. I was in Genesis, and I was all excited about mistakes that people had made and how it affected, generation after generation to today. But I kind of strayed away from that. But we can just briefly talk about, Adam kind of made a mistake, and that had some ripples. Abraham, was God told him he was going to have a son, but he just took it on his own. Well, his wife, asked him, say, hey, I can't give you a baby. So they went another route that had long-lasting ripples. Lot left Abraham, made a choice, went to Sodom. That didn't go well. Yeah, and if you think about those, for what I read, and John corrected me, not anywhere in those three stories did somebody say, let's pray. Let's talk to God. Let's consider God in all this. And you see the results. And I want to say, too, that when we think about ripples, you can't just think about something that was done or said. There's a flip side to that, too. There are things that are not done or not said that can be just as impactful, hurtful, or it might turn out for the better. We talk about God keeping us from things that hurt us all the time when things don't happen, and you realize down the road that, wow, if that had happened, I would have got in a car accident, or if I would have, you read about people all the time that, if I would have got on that plane, that crashed, those types of things. So God, sometimes through inaction, makes good things happen. So for a couple of months now, when I started this process, every time something not of God would come out of me, I was like, bad ripple. And now I got Jolinda doing it. Yeah. And it's pretty cool. Usually it's in not traffic, but when we're driving, we don't have traffic here, right? But I was driving down through Pinkham Notch the other day, and somebody passed in a really bad spot and had a really bad ripple come out, Yeah. But when that happens, though, it's pretty cool. If you're in here enough, you'll start to go, where'd that come from? Where did that come from? I let that in here somewhere. It's coming out, right? So, our words and deeds come from our heart. That's in there somewhere, and it came out. I used to be really good at that, but I'm trying not to be that way anymore. So, if you take a second when you feel that bad ripple come out of you, whether it's a word, action, thought, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Who put that there? How did I allow that to get there? So now we're going to go on a stretch. This is what got me kind of, after listening to his podcast, and I was sitting in the back of the church, and I had this ripple thing on my brain. And I was just thinking about, and it's cliche, we talk about, the ripple effect. We'll drop a rock in the water, and we'll watch the ripples go out, and that represents, what an action, just these long-reaching effects. Good, thank you. Long-reaching effects of actions and thoughts, words, all those things. You hear it all the time. So I was thinking about, wow, what if we're a rock and God picks us up and he drops us in the water, and what comes out in those ripples, that's our one chance, because we only get one shot at life, right, here on earth. And then we go to the bottom and that's it. And then we have to wait for God to come scoop us up. What if he doesn't come scoop you up? I was thinking, but you're saved. So God scoops you up and he throws you and you have a second chance. So while I was sitting back there, I said, you idiot. He does that every day. He's been doing it every day your whole stinking life. Every day is a new chance to put out stuff that is of God. But what do? We let the bad stuff that's in come out. And some of us have a lot of good stuff that comes out of us. We do a lot of good things, say a lot of nice things. We're with God, but there's still something in us. We all have something, right? We all have something we could fix. Do you ever get the feeling like you think you're doing all the right things, but nothing's changing, and you can't catch a break, and you just feel like you're beating your head up against the wall, and it's just the same thing. Every day I get up, it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I feel like God is just going to keep dropping you in the same spot over and over and over again until he changes your heart. And when he finally changes your heart and he drops you in the water and you put out the ripples he wants, he's going to drop you in a better place. And he's going to keep dropping you in a better place as long as that good stuff is coming out. And if you think hard on it, just how precious a day is, and look back at your life and think, how many days did I waste? You'll drive yourself nuts. But you can't dwell on that. You have to hope, you have to pray that God will bless you with another day. That he'll bless you with another day, because that's not guaranteed. Everybody has a limited number of times he's going to throw you. Is today the last time he's going to throw me? Or he threw me this morning and now I'm looking back on my day and I'm like, what if I don't get thrown tomorrow? So it's not just your ripples that you have to put up with as we go through life. We got to deal with everybody else's. I got to deal with a lot. Sorry, just looking at the happy guys in the back. No, I'm talking to them, not you, honey. You're good. Good ripples. Yeah. So how you deal with those is important. When God presents you with a problem, how you deal with that is important. Dwayne had said, and it's stuck with me ever since, is don't bring your problems to God, bring God into your problems. So when we're dealing with people who are putting out these bad ripples, we have to be careful what we let into our heart. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything else flows from it. And there's a reason for that. So if we're fortunate enough to be dropped into another day, how do we treat that gift? Are we grateful? When you wake up in the morning, are you grateful for that day? Psalm 143:8. Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Now, that's not generally how I start my day, but what a beautiful way to do that if you can take the time, a minute, to remember where God is in your life and where you are with him, and be grateful for the day. And know that you can trust him. And in anything that happens throughout that day, he's got you. So we start our day, and then what do? Do we follow his decrees? Do we walk with him? Do we meditate on his word? We have a guidebook for life, and it's right here. How often do we reference it? I love the Lord and I love this book. I still don't reference it enough. There's so much in here. Any situation, it pertains to any situation in your life. There's a way to get through it right in here. You know, pick something. There's a verse for everyone. If you just want one verse a day, just pick one and just stand by it that day. Bill had told me once that, so you want to know what God wants for you? He said, Micah 6:8. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy? Sorry, not a question. Sorry, let me do that again. What does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy. I missed something on there. Can you finish it, Bill? To walk humbly. Yeah, I stopped writing. Yeah, he'll fix me. Sorry about that. And to walk humbly. So anyway, I love that one. I can't remember it word for word, but I love it. But just an example of there's something for everybody in this book that can guide you through your day. I was reading Genesis 24:63. I was reading about Isaac, and his wife was on his way to him, and he said, they say he went out into the field one evening to meditate, and I was thinking about that. What was he meditating on? There was no Bible, so what was he thinking about? Was he thinking about goats and, and sheep and threshing and whatever they did back then? Yeah, you name it. Old school stuff. Or was he talking to the Lord? I think he might have been talking to the Lord, because all of a sudden his wife came on some camels. But what do we do in the evening at the end of a day? Do we take the time to meditate on this? Do we take the time to meditate on our relationship with the Lord? Do we take the time to reflect on how we spent our day? Do we take the time to judge ourselves against this? It only takes a few minutes. Talking about ripples that come out of people, just to backtrack a bit, I wanted to remind you that that when something comes out of you from the Lord, right, even though we might say it's a good ripple, it may not feel good to somebody else. If it's from here, from the Lord, and true, it's the truth. Sometimes that hurts people, right? So we end up having difficult conversations with people. And I wanted to touch on that before I went into what we should do in the evening. You need to have a difficult conversation with yourself. God, you gave me this beautiful day. And what did I do with it? I worried about money. I stressed about things that I have no control over. I was mean. I said, things that I shouldn't say. I had thoughts that I shouldn't have. I did things that were not of you. And even if you did some things that were technically, by this, good, there's always some place that you're lacking. And if you have these difficult conversations with yourself, God will let you know. He will let you know. Reggie said he's going to show a movie about near-death experiences. And when is that? Next week, Reggie? Or you? Yeah. I'll keep these on. Doesn't matter anyway. I just wanted to make sure. I had already told him, look, I already wrote that down. That's not yours, it's mine. So anyway, if you follow that at all, it's pretty interesting. People that actually pass away and are brought back to life, right? There's people that study that. There's one guy that studies it in particular that Reggie's going to show a movie on. And there's just a lot of common things. And one that I wanted to touch on today was a life review. These people die, and then sometimes they're with Jesus, with God, but at some point they have a life review. And in a lot of these life reviews, they feel everything that they've done, everything that they've said, they feel the results of those. They feel exactly how they've made somebody else feel. They know exactly how far their ripples went out into the world. They know how many people they've affected and where they stand with the Lord. What if we did that ourselves each day? We can't feel all that, but we can go through our day, look at it, and say, boy, I failed there. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done this. I should have did that. For you military guys, I apologize about where I'm about to go. So in a former life, we do something called an AAR. Nobody threw up? Okay, that's good. So we're an after-action review, right? So every time you get done training, or any major event, you'd have an after-action review. And they'd gather everybody together, and we'd review the day's training, or whatever happened that day. And what's supposed to happen, and they won't let you leave until somebody comes up with, there was 3 good things that happened today, and we can't go on to the bad things till we talk about the 3 good things. So we used to get so mad about that. And then finally you get to a point where you're like, well, the sun came up. Can we get on to the bad things? So militarily, I didn't like that. But when you think about it as pertaining to your life, you have to find the good things. You know, it's not a waste of time like it can be in the military sometimes. It's not a waste of time. Even if you have to go so far inside that the only good thing that happened today is I'm alive. And for some people, that's not even enough. They're alive and it's not a good thing. But if you're alive and you have God, that's a good place to start. If you have nothing else but that, that's a good place to start. So can you just imagine if you just took the time to talk with God and say, God, these 3 things I'm so happy for. Thank you. Thank you. And now let's move on to this list of stuff I need to lay at your feet. And it's lengthy. How much time you got? Right? What am I holding on to that I need to surrender to you? What have I done to disappoint you? What have I done that's not in line with your teaching? What have I not done that you wanted me to do? And you have to have that conversation. And you might not like what you hear back, but he knows you in that moment. He'll meet you in that moment, and he'll start to heal you if you'll let him. So there's all kinds of verses on meditation, reflection, and they mention meditation specifically. So what I wanted to make sure that we're clear on is I'm not talking about ching, 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 that kind of meditation, right? We're talking about thinking about where you are with this, thinking about where you are on your walk with the Lord, thinking about what's in your heart that needs to come out, thinking about how you let that in. Where's God in your life? Where's the enemy? He's always close by. So I picked this verse to kind of close things out, and it doesn't mention meditation at all. So I'll read it and I'll explain after. Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. The most important leaps of faith, the most important conversations you'll have are in the privacy of your heart with God. Only He knows your heart. But if you don't know it, you're going to struggle. As it says, I believe it's a psalm or psalm. Search my heart. Is that a psalm? I love that. Search my heart. Talk to God and let Him search your heart. And if you can't see it, let Him show you what needs to come out. So if you don't have those intimate moments with God, your heart will not change. You will continue to put out the same bad ripples every day, over and over again, until your time is up. But if you do have those conversations with God, if you are in the Word, if you are on your knees, if you're in here, God will change your heart, and He'll change your life. The reward is heaven, and if you don't do this, the consequence is hell. All I can say is just be cognizant of what you're putting out into the world. Because if it's not good, there's a price to pay. Amen. I forget all kinds of stuff. I'll be in the back.
We'll come to you for the next message.
Yeah. All right.
Great word. Great word. Love it.